Fang Chen fanned his void feather robes and sped swiftly on his way. However, just as he was engrossed in his journey, a sudden premonition struck him, causing him to abruptly halt. He raised his hand to touch his forehead, feeling a searing heat slowly fading away. This sensation instantly made his gaze sharpen, his expression turning extremely grave. In that fleeting moment, it was the blood character left by the ancient Chaos Blood Marquis that had flickered briefly between his brows. Fang Chen's heart jolted, and he hastily began to calculate with his fingers. Since Kai had painted that flame mark on his forehead, over 30 days had passed. He recalled that Kai had said the mark's effect would last only about a month. And now, right at the critical moment when the effect was about to dissipate, the blood character had appeared on his brow. This could only mean one thing: the ancient Chaos Blood Marquis had arrived. The enemy could very likely rely on the resonance of this blood mark to lock onto his position. Fang Chen gritted his teeth, silently cursing in his heart. Truly a lingering ghost. Not daring to delay for an instant, he instantly unleashed his holy power at full force, pushing the void feather robes to their absolute limit. Only in this way could he possibly escape this old bastard's pursuit. Yet just as he was about to leave, a roaring, thunderous sound erupted from behind him. Fang Chen turned his head to look, and his pupils instantly contracted. He saw a ferocious void tornado hurtling straight toward him. Within the raging eye of the storm, Feng Lingxiao stood grasping a small black banner radiating overwhelming pressure, with the 3 large characters Wind God's Decree starkly embroidered on its face. Fang Chen showed shock, blurting out a quasi-realm artifact. That tornado, driven to its full power, bore a speed through the void that rivaled even a 3 Calamities realm expert. In just a few flickers of light, it had already swept right in front of Fang Chen. Feng Lingxiao stood amid the wind, his face full of mockery as he sneered. Fang Chen, just because you have those void feather wings, you dare bare your fangs at me. You have no idea what a Viscount of Southern Cayenne truly is. This is the Southern Cayenne's exclusive Wind God's Decree, enough to chase you until there is no path to heaven and no gate to earth. Fang Chen's brows furrowed deeply. He currently had no time to waste in a standoff with Feng Lingxiao. Fang Chen then raised an eyebrow and retorted mockingly, "What, you traveled thousands of miles just to pay your respects to me?" Before his words finished, a majestic phantom of a great banner materialized behind him. Feng Lingxiao's expression drastically changed, and he immediately shouted sternly, "Do you think I'll let that move of yours succeed again?" He swiftly produced a bright yellow silk cloth and pressed it tightly to his chest, attempting to withstand the champion Marquis's terrifying pressure. Unexpectedly, the phantom behind Fang Chen merely wavered before abruptly vanishing. He had only fainted, exploiting that split-second opening to drive the void feather robes to their extreme, instantly teleporting on the spot and fleeing like the wind. Feng Lingxiao was so enraged that smoke seemed to pour from his 7 orifices, roaring, "Do you think you can run?" He immediately began madly manipulating the Wind God's Decree banner, chasing at extreme speed. Alas, under the full activation of the void feather wings, their speed was not the least bit inferior to his Wind God's Decree. Fang Chen was clearly just a short distance ahead, yet no matter how he tried, he couldn't catch up. This outcome only fueled Feng Lingxiao's rage further. However, just then, an unexpected turn of events occurred. A small boat wreathed entirely in ice flame shot past him with extraordinary speed, like a meteor overtaking the moon. At the bow of that ice flame boat stood an old man with a face as cold as frost. He was frantically pouring the power of laws into the boat, sparing no cost. In just a short moment, the boat had successfully intercepted Fang Chen. The newcomer was none other than Sage Wu Shan, who had been ordered to pursue him. After 3.5 days of travel, he had finally discovered Fang Chen's trail near the Netherworld realm. Sage Wu Shan waved his sleeve, and the terrifying ice bath laws of the Two Calamities realm instantly froze heaven and earth. Even the flow of time in the vicinity briefly came to a halt. The void feather wings on Fang Chen were severely affected, and his speed sharply plummeted. The ice flame boat seized the opportunity to ram viciously toward him. Fang Chen's face changed, and he cursed inwardly, another lingering ghost, and this one at the Two Calamities realm. It seemed he had no choice but to use the primeval heaven imprisoning gourd. Otherwise, if this continued, he would surely die. However, at the very moment the ice flame boat was about to collide, it abruptly swerved sideways, skimming past above Fang Chen and firmly blocking his path. Sage Wu Shan did not immediately attack. Instead, he merely stared at Fang Chen with eyes full of greed. He then glanced at Feng Lingxiao, who had caught up right behind, and a playful look crossed his face. Boy, you certainly have plenty of enemies. So, how about it? Do you want this elder to save you? Fang Chen's eyes flickered, and he asked in a deep voice, Old bastard, what exactly do you want from me? From his tone, it was clear what the other wanted wasn't simply to reclaim that half of a realm embryo. Sage Wu Shan stroked his beard, speaking leisurely, I want that dragon pearl of yours. He paused, his eyes abruptly blazing with fervor, then added, and I also want your body. A gasp. Hearing these words, Fang Chen instantly recalled the shadow of being tormented by Bing Xin, disguised as an old man, and subconsciously covered his backside. He said urgently, Old bastard, you've got the wrong person. My family isn't from the Bent capital. Sage Wu Shan's face tightened, and he fumed so much that his beard bristled and eyes bulged, shouting sternly, What nonsense are you imagining, you brat? This elder means he wants your body for body possession. Oh, that. Fang Chen let out a long breath, patted his chest, and only after much effort calmed his startled heart, then complained, You should have said so earlier, you scared me to death. So it's only for body possession, what's the big deal? Compared to being targeted for possession, being targeted by that kind of old man was what truly terrified him. Sage Wu Shan's face darkened as he snorted coldly. This elder will save your life from Feng Lingxiao today and drive him away for you. In exchange, your soul leaves this body and finds another to possess on your own. Otherwise, you will surely be annihilated, body and soul, at Feng Lingxiao's hands. What do you say to this proposal? Fang Chen looked at Feng Lingxiao, then at Sage Wu Shan, his expression extremely solemn as he pondered. He let out a long sigh and then slowly said, With a tiger ahead and a wolf behind, it seems I, Fang Chen, am destined to die today. Very well, Senior Wu Shan, as long as you drive Feng Lingxiao away. This Dao body of mine is yours. Sage Wu Shan chuckled, his face full of sarcasm. Fang Chen, even at this point, you still want to play these little tricks on me? This drive the tiger to devour the wolf scheme. Don't flaunt it before this elder. Leave your physical body now, and I will naturally protect your soul's safe departure. What? Fang Chen immediately showed a shocked expression, his face shifting dramatically, appearing extremely hesitant and afraid. Sage Wu Shan looked at him indifferently and added, Since this elder has accepted your benefit, I will naturally protect you to the end. Rest assured. After much internal struggle, Fang Chen finally made up his mind. He clenched his teeth tightly, like a beast driven to a dead end, and spoke each word with emphasis. Fine, I'll trust you this once. But you must permit me to take some things with me. He grabbed the heavenly thunderstone and began clumsily transferring its contents into a spatial storage device. Dragon Pearl, Merit Divine Pearl, Profound Sky Battle Armor, Realm Artifact, Heart of Myriad Earths. One supreme treasure after another, dazzling the eyes. Feng Lingxiao stood to the side, a mocking smile at the corner of his lips, his eyes full of amusement. He didn't interfere with the transaction between these two, because in his view, making Fang Chen lose his Dao body was the best revenge against him. He was happy to see it happen. But he never expected that Fang Chen actually possessed so many precious treasures, to the extent that even he, a Viscount of Southern Cayenne, had fiery light blazing in his eyes. Sage Wu Shan's expression changed, and he shouted in a deep voice, all right, if you're going to leave, leave quickly. If you dawdle any longer, you won't be able to go. With so many fine things exposed, who wouldn't turn green-eyed and mad with greed? Soon, it would likely be unavoidable to face Feng Lingxiao in direct combat. Fang Chen said with extreme reluctance, Fine, all the remaining things within this Dao body of mine, I leave entirely to you. You must block him for me. I'm off. The next moment, he closed his eyes, and instantly, all soul fluctuations vanished from the spot. The vital signs emanating from his form diminished with astonishing swiftness, until only deathly stillness remained. Worthy Wu Shan was slightly stunned. Fang Chen had so decisively given up his Dao body. But he had no time to ponder. He resolutely launched a claw strike from afar, fiercely grabbing at Fang Chen's physical body. Seeing this, Feng Lingxiao shouted sternly, All of these are mine, get lost. He madly manipulated the Wind God token, whipping up sky, covering storms, attempting to blast worthy Wu Shan away. But worthy Wu Shan was a cultivator of the Two Calamities realm. Did they think he was a pushover? Boundless power of laws surged forth, instantly destroying the tornado, and with lethal killing intent, it pounced straight toward Feng Lingxiao's Dao body. A trace of viciousness spread in worthy Wu Shan's eyes. With so many priceless treasures, How could he leave any survivors to spread the news? Feng Lingxiao, both shocked and enraged, bellowed, "How dare you! You actually attempt to murder a Viscount of Southern Cayenne." With a fierce roar, he ripped off his black robe. Then his entire body below the neck turned out to be pitch black ink, like eerie slime, from which ferocious black tentacles suddenly stabbed out, instantly piercing through Worthy Wu Shan's law, blockade and striking straight at his Dao body. Worthy Wu Shan was inwardly startled and immediately summoned 9 ice-light mirrors to revolve around him for protection. However, these mirrors did not hold for long before shattering one after another. A residual black tentacle instantly pierced through his arm, and a mysterious viscous substance took the opportunity to madly surge into his body. Worthy Wu Shan did not hesitate, resolutely shattering that arm of his own. Clutching his severed arm, he fixed a murderous glare on Feng Lingxiao and grimly said, "Good, very good. This old man will personally experience the divine abilities of your Southern Cayenne." As his words fell, he immediately unleashed an even more terrifying grand art. Fang Lingxiao, as if facing a formidable enemy, instantly activated all the eerie viscous liquids within his body. The two powerhouses thus madly battled it out within the void. Countless shattered law chains, fragments of grand arts, and rampant shockwaves of power all churned together, forming wave after wave of destructive impact that swept out in all directions. The great battle lasted for a long time. Soon after, Feng Lingxiao let out a pained groan and retreated in a sorry state. The eerie viscous liquid covering his body was damaged by a small half, and his aura became extremely disordered. After all, there was still an entire great realm between him and worthy Wu Shan. Panting, Feng Lingxiao asked in a deep voice, "Today, are you determined to fight me to the death, like fish dying and nets tearing?" The power of laws surrounding worthy Wu Shan had also weakened considerably from its peak state. He snorted coldly and said, "Fight. You'd better first think carefully whether you can leave here alive today." As he spoke, the tiny ice flame boat reappeared beneath his feet and shot toward Feng Lingxiao at extreme speed. Feng Lingxiao's expression changed drastically, and he decisively raised the wind god token, riding a tornado to prepare for escape. Just as the two were about to erupt in another death match, a dignified sigh echoed faintly in the void. "Ah, two fools." That voice contained boundless pressure, like the vast sea, directly shattering the tornado around Feng Lingxiao on the spot. He instantly lost his support, tumbling out of the storm in a sorry state. The cold, air-permeated ice flame boat under worthy Wu Shan's feet also suddenly shattered under this oppressive force. His face filled with terror, he cried out involuntarily, "Great Sage." "Why, you are the Netherworld Snow Maiden Great Sage." The two looked around in alarm and suddenly discovered that at some point, a dignified and peerlessly elegant woman in a blue robe had quietly crouched beside Fang Chen's corpse. She extended her slender fingers, gently pinched Fang Chen's nose, and teased with a light smile, "All right, stop pretending." As soon as her words fell, in the life pouch at Fang Chen's waist used to store the poison body. The poison body's eyes instantly closed. The next moment, his original body that should not have had any breath suddenly opened its eyes. Fang Chen sat up with a speechless expression, muttering, "I was planning to hide in the back, letting you two fight like dogs, and then come out to pick up the ready-made spoils. After the fight, isn't that better?"
What?
The faces of worthy Wu Shan and Feng Lingxiao instantly turned deathly pale. They had been tricked. A strong sense of humiliation blazed within Feng Lingxiao's chest. His eyes burning with rage, he shouted sternly, "You deliberately instigated us to kill each other." Only at this moment did he finally fully understand why Fang Chen had voluntarily revealed all his assets earlier. Meanwhile, worthy Wu Shan was staring intently at the intimate closeness between Fang Chen and Great Sage Snow Maiden. Terrified at the sight, he had not the slightest thought of fighting. Hastily, he bowed to Great Sage Snow Maiden with cupped hands. This junior's trip was entirely under the orders of the Ice Realm Great Sage. "If I have offended you, I beg Great Sage Snow Maiden's forgiveness." With one sentence, he shifted all the blame completely away. Was he shifting all the blame onto the Ice Realm Great Sage? Great Sage Snow Maiden's beautiful eyes looked over coldly, a flash of sharp killing intent passing through their depths. She raised her fair palm and slowly clenched her fingers toward worthy Wu Shan. The already pitch black void space around worthy Wu Shan instantly grew deeper, collapsing inward with a roar and condensing into a terrifying black hole. Within it, worthy Wu Shan's Dao body was immediately crushed by the all-pervasive pressure, making blood gush out wildly. The bones inside his body emitted a series of crunching teeth, faking explosive sounds. Coveting my little brother Fan's treasures is one thing, but you contemptible wretch actually dared to try to seize his body. Even if your Ice Realm Great Sage were standing here personally, I would still execute you on the spot. Great Sage Snow Maiden's voice was like ice, each word exuding bone, piercing, killing intent. She had actually been hiding nearby all along, seeing these two's despicable actions crystal clear. This worthy Wu Shan, with his vile methods and venomous mind, could not be left alive. Worthy Wu Shan was now already terrified out of his wits, his fear reaching the extreme. He wailed repeatedly, "Great Sage Snow Maiden, spare my life. I am willing to serve as a beast of burden for the netherworld for all eternity, only begging you to grant me a sliver of a way to live." Great Sage Snow Maiden shifted her gaze, looked softly at Fang Chen and asked, "Our netherworld has no shortage of servants. Little brother Fan, do you want him?" Fang Chen shook his head with disgust and sneered, "Who wants a shabby old man as a servant? I don't want his life. Just keep the meritorious divine steel on him for me. That's the truly good stuff." He was still calculating inwardly that if he could cultivate another clone in the future, this thing would come in handy for great use. Hearing this, Great Sage Snow Maiden understood. Her clenched fingers abruptly activated. Only a muffled, crumbling boom was heard, and worthy Wu Shan, a powerhouse of the Two Calamities realm, was instantly shattered into a dense blood mist without even a final scream, completely disappearing into the black hole. Only two dazzling, golden meritorious divine steels were stripped out intact, transforming into two streaks of light and flying back to Fang Chen's side. "Thank you, Sister Snow Maiden." Fang Chen's eyes shone as he cried out excitedly. Truly a supreme expert of the Three Calamities realm, slaying a Two Calamities cultivator is as easy as taking something out of a bag, and she can even casually and perfectly strip away the opponent's meritorious divine steel. If it were Fang Chen himself, going all out to kill an Earl, a stage 1 Calamity cultivator might still have a slight possibility. But to so effortlessly obtain the opponent's meritorious divine steel, there was absolutely not a shred of hope. Yet Great Sage, Snow Maiden lifted the corners of her mouth and said, "That's not all." With a flash in her eyes, she abruptly cast a cold gaze toward Feng Lingxiao. "If I kill you right here, your Southern Kaian dynasty will not know a thing." The expression on Feng Lingxiao's face instantly froze. A deep dread flashed deep within his eyes, and he no longer dared to show even the slightest bit of arrogance. He deeply gazed at Fang Chen with a complicated look, and finally, very unwillingly, he cupped his hands to Great Sage Snow Maiden. "Great Sage Snow Maiden, I have offended you greatly. This junior takes his leave." But Great Sage Snow Maiden merely hooked her finger gently, and the Wind God token flag, tightly gripped in Feng Lingxiao's hand, was hooked over by an invisible force. Feng Lingxiao was greatly shocked and urgently said, "Great Sage Snow Maiden, this is a secret magical artifact of my Southern Kaian royal family, not passed down to outsiders. This precious Wind God command banner was a life-saving artifact that he specially requested from the Southern Kaian imperial family and finally obtained. If he lost it here, he would be utterly unable to account for it upon his return, and the consequences would be so severe that he could not bear them." The great sage Zuji watched him indifferently, her voice devoid of any emotion. "One more word, and you will stay as well." Feng Lingxiao's eyelids twitched violently. He shot a resentful glare at Fang Chen, not daring to utter another half-word, and could only turn and retreat in utter disarray. Only then did the great sage Zuji hand the small black banner to Fang Chen, saying gently, "This magical artifact is also yours. Although you do not lack means to flee, this Wind God Command banner is not merely a tool for swift travel. It can command all formless flows between heaven and earth, from the faintest breeze in nature to the void storms beyond worlds, and even the destructive airstreams generated when mighty beings of the Three Calamities realm do battle. If used properly, this banner can not only preserve your life, but also help you annihilate extremely powerful foes." A flash of lightning streaked through Fang Chen's mind as he instantly grasped the true brilliance of the Wind God Command banner. If there were an extremely powerful shockwave nearby, he could command it, redirecting the force to destroy his enemies. And if the force he could command were sufficiently immense, the strength of the enemies he could slay would far exceed anyone's imagination. He accepted it with both hands, his eyes filled with gratitude, and said solemnly, "Thank you, big sister." This time, the great sage Zuji had truly given him a priceless treasure of immeasurable value. The great sage Zuji looked at Fang Chen, a gentle smile of relief appearing on her face. She said softly, "You've helped me so much. What's the harm in giving you a little gift? In the future, if you encounter an enemy you cannot handle, feel free to come back to the netherworld to find me. As long as someone dares to bully you, Big Sister will destroy them for you." Fang Chen's heartstrings were deeply moved by these words. In this cruel and merciless myriad of worlds, to meet someone who treats him so wholeheartedly, could this be heaven's favor upon him? No, it was clearly that scumbag, the grand libationer of the Weeping Tomb, who had such a viciously sharp eye. A woman as wonderful as this, and even she was ruined by him. Fang Chen stood up, a trace of hidden worry in his eyes, and glanced warily in the direction behind him. He solemnly exhorted, "Sister Zuji, you should return to the netherworld as soon as possible, and do not come out again for some time." He did not know where the ancient Chaos Blood Marquis had already slaughtered to by now. The great sage Zuji did not detect the deeper warning in Fang Chen's words, and simply nodded obediently. "I understand. Big sister won't delay your journey. You must take care along the way." Fang Chen cupped his hands toward the great sage Zuji, watching as her figure, with a faint smile, slowly dissolved into a phantom silhouette and vanished between heaven and earth. He no longer hesitated, resolutely activating the void wings on his back, his form transforming into a streak of light as he sped toward the Earth realm. At that very moment, outside the netherworld, the sky and earth were already a ghastly, shocking expanse of blood, red. A bone-chilling skeletal warhorse, treading upon a sinister blood moon, stood with divine majesty in the void outside the realm. Beneath the ancient Chaos Blood Marquis' cold metallic mask, his eyes radiated monstrous baleful aura as he gazed down from on high at the netherworld, which was likewise shrouded in bloody light. Seeing that no one came out to greet him from within the realm, he slowly tightened his grip on the blood spear in his hand, its tip unmistakably aimed toward the direction of Kinkyu. The big black dog's face underwent a dramatic change at the sight. It hastily shouted into the netherworld at the top of its lungs, "The ancient Chaos Blood Marquis is here." The netherworld must immediately dispatch a representative to pay homage. This fearsome figure would massacre an entire city at the slightest disagreement. He was practically the most tyrannical king of slaughter in all the myriad worlds. However, the ancient Chaos Blood Marquis suddenly shifted his gaze. He threw his murderous stare fiercely toward the direction Fang Chen had just vanished in, and whispered menacingly, "You have finally shown yourself." Though it lasted only a brief instant, he had clearly detected the blood mark resonance that had vanished for a full month. Fang Chen was not in the netherworld at all. He abruptly yanked the reins, turned his horse around, and rode off with lightning speed, leaving nothing but dust. The big black dog, tied to a rope behind the skeletal warhorse, was dragged helplessly across the ground, violently scraped and tumbling. Without looking back, the ancient Chaos Blood Marquis struck backward with his spear, stabbing viciously toward the big black dog. He coldly spat out a few words, "You are useless now." The terrifying power capable of destroying worlds made the big black dog's fur instantly stand on end. The vertical eye in the center of its forehead suddenly erupted with brilliant golden beams of light. These beams rapidly interwove in the air, condensing into a solemn, majestic phantom of a grand seal. It was precisely the supreme jade seal of the Southern Kayan dynasty. Although only a phantom, the might it emitted remained astonishingly immense. Last time, it had survived the opponent's blood spear strike by sheer luck, relying precisely on this great seal. Boom! An earth-shattering, apocalyptic boom resounded as the blood light that could annihilate all things instantly pierced through the void. A terrifying black hole was blasted open, instantly swallowing the big black dog along with the rope on it. The ancient Chaos Blood Marquis still rode off into the distance without looking back. He could not be bothered to glance back and confirm whether the big black dog was dead or alive. After a long while, in that gradually mending void, the big black dog, drenched in blood and coughing up bloody foam, tightly wrapped in the phantom of the Great Seal, crawled out of the black hole with immense difficulty. Bearing a mouthful of canine teeth, it fiercely cursed, "Ancient Chaos Blood Marquis, fuck your grandma. Just you wait, you bastard. Sooner or later, I'll dismantle your skeleton." It weakly sprawled in the void, panting for a long time before finally catching its breath. It let out a long breath of turbid air and muttered to itself with some relief, "Speaking of which, I'm finally free. That bastard Fang Chen, from now on, don't even think about restraining this dog lord anymore. From now on, the sky's the limit for a bird to fly. The sea's broad enough for a fish to leap. Freedom, I love you." Just as it was at the peak of self-indulgent joy, a woman's voice full of astonishment suddenly sounded from behind. "Where did this dog come from? And it even has Two Calamities realm cultivation. Perfect, it can be a spirit pet for my 2 daughters. The big black dog's ecstatic expression instantly stiffened. Its neck stiff, it slowly turned its head and saw an exquisitely beautiful woman in a green robe, looking at it with a half-smile. The terrifying aura of the Three Calamities realm, like thunder from the ninth heaven, pressed down on the already heavily injured and weak big black dog, causing its vision to go black, and it fainted on the spot. In that moment, before complete unconsciousness, only one immensely aggrieved thought flashed through its mind. Are you all fucking in on this together? Fang Chen, the ancient Chaos Blood Marquis, the great sage Zuji, these fiendish gods came one after another, lining up to torment it. The coordination was absolutely seamless. Even the girls in a brothel still let a man catch his breath. 3 days later, above the Earth realm, Fang Chen's mood grew heavier and heavier. Along the way, the blood mark on his forehead had already appeared 3 times. Each time it appeared for only a brief moment, but the ancient Chaos Blood Marquis could fully rely on the blood mark's resonance to firmly lock onto his trail and pursue him. He could not stay long in the Earth realm before him. He must complete the transaction at the fastest speed possible, then leave immediately without the slightest delay. With this in mind, he no longer used conventional means to break through the realm. Instead, he swung his fist, using unmatched colossal strength to smash open the world barrier and plunged straight into the Earth realm. His gaze then swept like lightning across the vast, boundless land below. As a world that had been ravaged by ancient giants for over 2 months, it stood to reason that the scene below should be one of devastation and misery. But when Fang Chen subconsciously looked down, he was completely dumbfounded. What he saw instead was a land of magnificent mountains and rivers, cities bustling with prosperous populations, exuding tranquility and affluence everywhere. Where could one find ease? Then, a trace of ancient giant invasion. For a brief moment, he even doubted whether he had entered the wrong world. Suddenly, a ripple in the void spread silently. An ashen-faced old man materialized from the void and abruptly appeared before him. His skin, dry and cracked like parched earth, radiated a profound and heavy aura of earth law. He was clad in a tattered, blood-stained Taoist robe. This man was none other than the Earth Realm Sage, who had previously gone to the Central Plains to seek aid. The Earth Realm Sage recognized the visitor, his face betraying astonishment, and quickly said, "Champion Marquis, you came so quickly." Fang Chen gave an embarrassed smile. To his chagrin, he had actually wasted an entire month on the way. However, the void was so vast that the distance between worlds, if traversed at speeds below the Three Calamities realm, would take at least over a month. Thus, arriving in just over a month already seemed astonishingly fast in the eyes of the other. Fang Chen collected his thoughts, looked down at the serene land below, and asked with great puzzlement, "Senior, could it be that the ancient dark creatures of your Earth realm have already been driven away?" The Earth realm sage smiled bitterly, pointed to the conspicuous bloodstain on his robe, and sighed heavily. "It's not that easy. We are still struggling to hold them off. For now, neither side can overpower the other, so we remain deadlocked." Upon hearing this, Fang Chen was even more puzzled. He pointed to the city below, which presented a scene of peace and prosperity, and asked with a frown, "But that city must be hiding quite a few cultivators, no? Why aren't they on the battlefield?" From his senses, in this city alone, there were at least 3 auras of the deity transformation realm entrenched there. The Earth Realm Sage merely glanced down briefly before looking away, explaining with a bitter tone, "Those are reinforcements from other realms, newly withdrawn from the battlefield. LD now indulging in pleasure in the city. Champion Marquis, you have come at the perfect time. Please act swiftly and drive away those ancient giants for us." At this point, his expression grew even more complicated, and through gritted teeth he added, "If this drags on, I fear the Earth Realm won't fall to the ancient giants. It'll be drive first by these foreign reinforcements." Fang Chen frowned. What did he mean by that? Suppressing his doubts, he merely said in a deep voice, "Let's go to the battlefield first." Without further words, the Earth Realm Sage swept his wide sleeve, wrapping the two in a dense spatial force that dematerialized them again and teleported away. In mere moments, they appeared above the heartland of the Earth Realm, a supremely prosperous, gigantic city. The buildings in that city stood row upon row, spreading out layer upon layer from beneath their feet, stretching to the very limit of vision, so vast they could not see its edge. It spanned at least tens of thousands of miles. Such a colossal and majestic mega-city Fang Chen had truly never seen before. Yet eerily inside the city there was singing and dancing to peace and prosperity, laughter and joy everywhere, exactly like a scene of a golden age. In stark contrast, beyond the city, protecting grand formation, ancient giants surged like a tide, locked in frenzied battle with countless human powerhouses. The number of those powerhouses was so vast that it was no less than the tide of ancient giants outside. More crucially, they were diverse, a mix of many races, and didn't look like native beings of the Earth realm at all. The scale of these foreign reinforcements was far greater than the forces Fang Chen had painstakingly mustered to bring to the Central Plains. Fang Chen stared in shock and blurted out, "Are all these people foreign reinforcements?" He couldn't understand how a mere Earthrealm had managed to summon such an astonishing number of foreign helpers. The Earthrealm sage nodded with mixed joy and worry, and slowly explained, "In our hour of crisis, the great sage of the Earthrealm issued a war bounty to the surrounding worlds. The bounty was that anyone who fought for the Earthrealm for a day could enjoy a day of free indulgence in any city of our realm. If they wanted to whore, they could whore. If they wanted to eat, they could eat. Drink, drink. Gamble, gamble. All at the Earthrealm's expense." Once this decree was issued, it immediately attracted countless desperate powerhouses. Fang Chen's mouth twitched violently as he listened. Back then, he had exhausted every trick, leasing a truce deal, risking his life maneuvering in the Hell Realm, even braving death in the South Heaven Realm to save 100 Archants. Gels, all that effort was less effective than the Earth Realm's straightforward invitation to eat, drink, whore, and gamble. However, the drawbacks of this move were glaringly obvious. This motley crowd had no intention of fighting the ancient giants with all their strength. Instead, they deliberately held back, keeping the two sides evenly matched at all times. Thus, they could endlessly freeload off the Earth Realm's resources. But even though the Earth Realm was known across the heavens as a famous den of extravagance, its resources were finite. How could it withstand the demands of such a massive horde of powerhouses descending like locusts? Fang Chen composed himself, put aside his thoughts, and said solemnly, "I won't make things difficult for you. If you want me to use the truce steel, you must prepare a large merit, divine pearl, and a sufficient amount of earth origin for me." The Earth Realm sage was overjoyed upon hearing this. That large merit divine pearl was the reward they had promised right from the start. As for the Earth origin, it might be extremely rare elsewhere, but on this Earth Realm land, it was more than enough. His face full of tearful gratitude, he cupped his hands repeatedly. "Thank you, Champion Marquis. This old man will take you to see our great sage right away." Fang Chen, however, waved his hand to signal him to wait. He took a deep breath, raised his hand to activate the ice crystal pendant on his chest, and his features twisted and shifted, instantly transforming into the appearance of Wang Lingxiao. He lowered his voice and warned the Earth Realm sage, "From this moment on, I am Wang Lingxiao. Do not call me by my real name or the title Champion Marquis again." With so many riffraff gathered in the Earth Realm, the situation was 100 times more complicated and chaotic than he had imagined. How could he dare to reveal his true identity? The Earth Realm sage understood, his eyes showing admiration, and stroked his beard with a smile. "Fellow Taoist Wang is indeed exceedingly cautious. Unlike some short-sighted fool who dared to impersonate you all over our Earth Realm and has suffered quite a bit for it." Fang Chen's pupils contracted sharply. Someone was impersonating him. What kind of wicked scoundrel dared to tarnish his name in the Earth Realm? He immediately darkened his face and asked coldly, "Do you know who this person is exactly?" The Earth Realm sage helplessly stroked his beard and explained, "This fellow is extremely alert. Whenever he shows up somewhere, he immediately moves to another place to continue his swindling, making him impossible to trace." Fang Chen furrowed his brow. The Earth Realm was already a chaotic mess, and now, with the ancient giant invasion on top of it, they naturally couldn't spare the effort to deal with such a nuisance. Suppressing his anger, he pressed further. "Then what exactly has he done under my name?" The Earth Realm sage coughed dryly, his expression somewhat odd. "Well, he hasn't done anything truly heinous. He simply used your illustrious name as Champion Marquis to go around seeking patronage, and in doing so, scammed quite a few female great exalts and sages of their bodies and possessions." "Damn it!" Fang Chen's face instantly darkened. This wasn't considered a bad thing. Scamming money and sex, the impostor reaped all the benefits while he, Fang Chen, had to carry all the blame and infamy. What kind of thing was that? He flew into a rage and demanded through gritted teeth, "What does this scoundrel look like? I must go meet him in person." He had been sitting peacefully in the Central Plains, yet trouble descended upon him from the sky. How outrageous. The Earth Realm sage furrowed his brow in thought for a moment, then deliberated. "If I must name his greatest trait, it would be that his luck is absurdly heaven-defying." Several times his identity was exposed in public, and he was hunted by multiple groups of powerhouses, yet each time he managed to escape by sheer luck. Most absurdly, even our great sage personally went after him, yet still failed. Mentioning this last incident, the Earth Realm sage's face could not help but show deep disbelief. That great sage was a supreme existence at the Three Calamities realm, a mighty figure who ruled over a world. He truly couldn't fathom how a mere deity transformation junior, who hadn't even stepped into the sage realm, had escaped unscathed. Good luck. Fang Chen narrowed his eyes, a cold glint flashing in them, and asked word by word, "Does this person also carry a body full of treasures?" The Earth Realm sage looked surprised and blurted out, "How did fellow Taoist Wang know?" No one knows where that scoundrel came from, but he was draped head to toe in treasures of staggering origin, making every powerhouse in the Earth Realm drool with envy. Asterisk crack, asterisk. Fang Chen's fists suddenly clenched, his knuckles emitting a harsh, grating burst of cracks. Flames nearly erupted from his eyes as he squeezed two words through gritted teeth. Wang Lingxiao. "You son of a bitch." A heaven-defying stroke of luck that beggars belief, plus a body loaded with terrifying treasures of frightening origin, and on top of that, deliberately dragging Fang Chen's name through the mud to the point of ruin. Who else could it be but that calamity star, Wang Lingxiao? Suppressing his killing intent, he asked in a deep, rumbling voice, "How many women has that bastard ruined? How severe are the consequences?" The Earth Realm sage lifted a finger and performed a few calculations, his expression growing stranger by the moment. Practically every distinguished female, great venerable, and female sage, native to our Earth Realm, has fallen prey to his hands, at least 100 of them. And as for the female reinforcements from outside, I reckon quite a few of them have also been ravaged by him. As for the consequences, the husbands and lovers of these victims have now gathered forces and are scouring the entire world in a mad frenzy to settle scores with him. At this, he couldn't help but glance at Fang Chen's disguised face, feeling an even deeper admiration for the man's foresight. Had his identity not been concealed in advance, this champion marquis would have been swamped with trouble the moment he set foot in the Earth Realm. Fang Chen felt a brief darkness cloud his vision, a dizzying, spinning sensation crashing straight into his skull. Over 100 great venerables and sages. How many mortal enemies, each as deadly as the next, had Wang Lingxiao inexplicably drawn down upon him? His tightly balled fists trembled faintly from the sheer intensity of his grip, and from his throat came a low, furious growl. "Wang Lingxiao, you inhuman wretch. Since you dare to play me like this, don't blame me for playing an even bigger game with you." Fang Chen abruptly turned, his gaze razor sharp, and said to the Earth Realm sage, "Senior, let's waste no more time. Take me to see your great sage right now." The Earth Realm sage could not have asked for more. With a sweep of his voluminous sleeve, the boundless power of space surged once again, carrying Fang Chen in a single teleportation, and they descended directly above the war-torn battlefield. Before them, dozens of ancient giants were clashing intensely with the extravagantly assembled lineup of enemy sages, reducing the firmament to shreds and sinking the very earth. However, with Fang Chen's discerning eyes, he could see through the trickery at a single glance. The local Earth Realm sages were truly locked in life war, death combat with the giants, every move desperate, every second a matter of survival. But those sage reinforcements from beyond the domain were, every last one of them, conspicuously slacking off. Even with an absolute advantage of 3 against 1, they deliberately fought the ancient giants to a cease, a draw, never forcing a conclusion. As long as this charade could drag on for a single day, those sages could lounge on the Earth Realm's back and siphon off a staggering full day's worth of resources with a perfectly clear conscience. And at the rate a sage consumed resources, no matter how profound the Earth Realm's reserves, it simply could not endure being drained to the marrow day after day like this. Looking further down, the reinforcements at the Divine Transformation and nascent Soul Realms were also tacitly dawdling across their respective battlefields. It was clearly a sheer me to strip the Earth Realm entirely bare. Fang Chen's heart turned icy cold. If he were to use the true steel right now and forcibly drive away the ancient giants, that would be like swinging an axe to sever every single one of those foreign reinforcements. Money paths, they would hate him to the bone. But on second thought, such a situation was, for him, actually perfect. The Earth Realm sage, oblivious to his schemes, could no longer contain his surging emotions. Cupping his hands toward that supreme existence high in the canopy of the heavens, he cried out, "Great sage, the emissary from the central plains, fellow Taoist Wang Lingxiao has arrived. He bears the truce steel, and is willing to intervene on behalf of our Earth Realm to expel the ancient giants." As soon as these words echoed out, the first to explode into turmoil on the battlefield were not the ancient giants, but the very foreign reinforcements who had been slacking off. The moment those powerhouses of the Divine Transformation and nascent Soul Realms heard the words "True Steel," Their faces instantly paled, their expressions shifting dramatically. Why, as a seismic shock rippled through their hearts. If the ancient giants were driven away, wouldn't the carefree days of lying low and freeloading come to an abrupt end? In an instant, pairs of hostile eyes, brimming with icy enmity, converged from all directions, locking fiercely onto Fang Chen. At first, the otherworldly sage's eyes shone with burning avarice. The value of the true steel far exceeded the resources of the Earth realm. But then they realized with a start that the Earth realm's great sage was right here. What chance did they have to covet the true steel? The truly urgent matter was, they absolutely could not let Wang Chengxi ruin their good thing. One sage forcefully suppressed his fury and demanded in a deep voice, "Wang Chengxiao, do you even know what you are doing?" Compared to this sage's roundabout tone, the other sages made no effort to veil their naked threats. "Take your true steel and get out of the Earth realm. Your central plains has no business here." Daring to show up in the Earth realm with the true steel, do you really not know how many ways there are to spell death? One sage of the Two Calamity realm even went so far as to strike at Fang Chen with lethal intent. A deafening boom tore through the void as a terrifying chain of law, wrapped in destructive momentum, shot straight toward Fang Chen. In that flash of lightning, a crisp yet muffled **crack** rang out, and a stalwart figure wreathed in an earthy yellow halo materialized out of thin air. With a single flick of his sleeve, the great sage of the Earth realm shattered the Two Calamity sage's law chain into oblivion, his voice carrying an innate, forbidding majesty. "Why, you go too far. You have already siphoned boundless resources from my Earth realm. You should know when enough is enough." Seeing the great sage personally step in to shield him, the host of otherworldly sages could only resentfully withdraw their hands, though they all cast sharp, warning glares at Fang Chen, eyes filled with murderous intent, almost solid enough to cut. Cutting off a man's wealth is like killing his parents. Wang Chengxiao's actions had, without a doubt, made him an open enemy of the powerhouses from several surrounding worlds. Fang Chen, or more precisely, Fang Chen wearing the face of Wang Chengxiao, threw back his head and puffed out his chest, striking a pose of unassailable righteousness, and thundered furiously, "You vermin! The Earth realm is stricken by calamity, its living beings suffering untold devastation, yet you think only of your own selfish gain, caring nothing for the life and death of countless beings. I, Wang Chengxiao, will never stand for it." He fiercely flung his sleeve, his voice rolling like the roar of heaven. "Today, even if I must brave the censure of the entire world and offend every last one of you snakes, rats, insects, and ants, even if I become your eternal foe, I will oppose you to the bitter end. All of you, remember my name, remember this face. I am Wang Chengxiao. If you've got the guts, come and try to chop me down." With that, he unflinchingly produced the true steel and stood alone, facing the dense, countless horde of otherworldly powerhouses. This scene left the Earth realm sage utterly dumbfounded, and for just a split second, he was deeply moved by this display of Fang Chen's so-called righteous grandeur. Even the lofty great sage of the Earth realm could not help but turn his gaze over, and deep within those eyes veiled by the yellow halo flickered an undisguised sense of admiration. Amid this chaotic Earth realm, rife with filthy dealings, Fang Chen was nothing short of a crystal, clear, pristine stream. The great sage said no more. He directly brought out a large merit divine pearl along with a fist-sized, oddly shaped stone, glowing with an earthy yellow radiance. "This is an artifact shed from the Earth realm's world embryo. It can continuously overflow the origin of Earth. You may draw as much as you desire. This act does not harm the fundament of the world embryo. Take however much you wish." Overjoyed, Fang Chen quickly stepped forward to accept it, then swept his gaze over the sea of otherworldly immortals glaring murderously back at him, and let out an arrogant, cold snort. "Come on then. If you've got the skill, come straight for me, Wang Chengxiao." Immediately, he unhesitatingly activated the true steel. In that instant, that single archaic character, Scram, on the steel erupted with an utterly unique resonance, one that nearly compelled all who witnessed it to prostrate themselves in worship. Then, that resonance coalesced into a colossal voice, imbued with the rolling might of heaven, radiating explosively in all directions. From the lowliest ordinary ancient giant all the way up to the giant emperor himself, every last one turned deathly pale with terror and fled in a mad, receding tide. The local sages of the Earth realm consecutively broke into expressions of wild ecstasy. This calamity was finally about to end. The great sage of the Earth realm likewise heaved a long sigh of relief, and his voice instantly turned ice, cold and piercing. "Distinguished guests from beyond the domains, we thank you for your strenuous assistance over these past 2 months. Now that the giants have been driven off, if you have no other business, please see yourselves out." Having long endured his fill of these insatiable foreign reinforcements, he bluntly issued an order of expulsion. Seeing that the situation was beyond salvaging, the cultivators at the nascent soul stage and the lower-level spirit-severing cultivators could only curse Wang Qingxi out hatefully before leaving in resentful disappointment. However, those sages and higher-level spirit-severing cultivators fixed their gazes intently on Fang Chen, their feet not moving an inch, with no intention of leaving. One sage spoke meaningfully. "I wish to stay in the Earth Realm and indulge myself for a while. What, does the great sage not welcome me?" Though those words were spoken, everyone's eyes were locked onto Fang Chen, their gazes all clearly yearning to devour him alive. Just moments ago, this brat had the audacity to insolently challenge them to strike at him. How could they not now grant his wish? A sharp light flashed in the Earth Realm great sage's eyes as he spoke. "Young friend Wang, come with this sage. With me present, no one will be able to do anything to you." But Fang Chen took a step back, cupped his fists, and said, "Many thanks for the great sage's kindness. This junior appreciates the sentiment. However, this junior still has urgent matters to attend to, so I will not linger in the Earth Realm." "Very well." Without waiting for the great sage to react, Fang Chen abruptly activated the myriad Earth Heart, instantly teleporting to a faraway part of the Earth Realm. The Earth Realm great sage's expression shifted slightly as he violently clawed at the void where Fang Chen had vanished, but unfortunately, his move was one step too late. "What a cunning brat!" The Earth Realm great sage's voice deepened as he spoke coldly. "As the master of a chaotic world, how could the Earth Realm great sage be some benevolent character?" This delivered truce monument, he absolutely would not simply let it slip away. But he never expected that Fang Chen had actually prepared such a contingency long ago. He immediately issued orders to the assembled sages of the Earth Realm. "All of you, swiftly spread out to the surroundings of the Earth Realm. The moment any void rift appears, notify me at once." Fang Chen entered easily, but to easily slip away now would not be so simple. Hearing this, the sages from beyond the heavens' gazes flickered, a scorching light reigniting in their eyes as they scattered in all directions to search. Only the Earth Realm sage who had been in contact with Fang Chen all along hesitated for a moment, but ultimately did not tell the great sage that Wang Qingxiao's true identity was... Yes, actually, Fang Chen. Fang Chen had only taken a little extra Earth origin, which was already extremely lenient toward the Earth Realm. Furthermore, even if Fang Chen were captured, it would bring him no benefit whatsoever. Why engage in such a deed that harms others without benefiting oneself? Little did they know. Just as they were spreading out to search far and wide, down below in the boundless, colossal city, within a dark and damp alley, Fang Chen silently emerged from the earth. If he were to tear open the world's barrier now, wouldn't that be equivalent to directly drawing everyone's attention? Better to wait here for a spell. Once their search proves fruitless and they depart the Earth Realm, causing rifts to appear everywhere, then he could leisurely leave without delay. As for why he came to this city, it was so vast, its populace so mixed, it was the perfect hiding place. Searching for him here would be no different from fishing a needle from the sea. Just as he was about to activate the selfless purification dust art to conceal himself and await the opportune moment, a figure suddenly cast over him, enveloping his entire being. Fang Chen looked up to see a woman dressed in a flowery dress, heavily powdered and rouged, half of her body leaning over the courtyard wall, smiling coquettishly as she called out to him, "Hey there, you little devil, come on in and have a good time." Immediately after, another 3 or 5 dazzlingly beautiful girls, decked out in finery, peeked out their heads, their faces all exuding seductive, flirtatious charm. Fang Chen was first stunned, then it suddenly dawned on him. The red courtyard wall beside him was actually a brothel. His mouth couldn't help but twitch, and he slapped the myriad Earth Heart, cursing under his breath, "You old rogue, why did you bring me to this damned place?" Then he looked up at the group of girls and probed cautiously, "Are you all legitimate?" The woman in the flowery dress smiled alluringly, her voice sickly sweet. "Of course we're legitimate. Not only are we legitimate, we're very proper too. Young master, come give it a try, and you'll know how proper, and how tight, we are." Fang Chen's face tightened, replying with disgust, "Who would go to a legitimate one? Isn't that sick?" Under the instantly frozen gazes of those girls, Fang Chen lifted his feet and left the alley. Unexpectedly, as soon as he reached the alley's entrance, another row of brightly dressed, gorgeous girls leaned out from another courtyard wall. "Hey there, young master. We aren't legitimate here, Tilda. Come play with us." Fang Chen was utterly speechless. This side was also a brothel. He expressionlessly replied, "Who would go to an illegitimate one? Isn't that even more sick?" Under the frozen gazes of yet another row of girls, Fang Chen strode out of the alley. He was pondering, finding a secluded place to hide, when suddenly a clamorous din of gongs and drums rang out from the street. A throng of men and women crowded around a huge palanquin, floating slowly over in midair. The palanquin was entirely covered with fresh flowers, scattering petals of all colors along the way. The surrounding men and women, as if possessed, sang and laughed around the palanquin, and passers-by all joined in, madly leaping after the flower palanquin. A petal silently landed on Fang Chen's shoulder, his vision suddenly blurred for a moment, as if something intangible was invading his consciousness. Just then, a cool sensation abruptly surged from his bosom, causing Fang Chen to snap back to his senses. Is this illusion magic, or bewitchment arts? He retrieved a few strands of silvery, white hair from his bosom. These were precisely the protective items that the Snow Maiden Great Sage had specially given him when she learned he would be coming to the Earth Realm. It was no wonder the Snow Maiden Great Sage had worried he might sink into depravity in the Earth Realm. The realm's so-called gluttony, drinking, whoring, and gambling were not merely the simple desires of the mundane world. Some people indeed cultivated exactly these paths. Without careful precautions, one could easily fall into them, unable to extricate oneself. Just like that crowd staggering blankly along, entranced by the woman within the flower palanquin. Suddenly, the palanquin halted in midair. A woman in red, wearing a colored floral crown, her hair like a waterfall of ink, with an unbelievably surreal countenance, leaned out. The reason her appearance was called surreal was that her face actually continuously shifted, at times resembling Yun Zia, at times like Lingxiao, then suddenly becoming Liu Ruxu. The faces of the women most important in Fang Chen's heart actually all flashed across her face, one by one. Fang Chen's heart grew cold. This woman could actually sense his inner thoughts. She beamed a smile, her voice sounding as if multiple graceful women were speaking at once, melodiously calling out, "Would the young master care to share a drink with Pianru?" As her words fell, the door curtain of the palanquin gently lifted, inviting Fang Chen inside. Fang Chen had been about to flatly refuse, but he suddenly sensed a sage had detected the disturbance here and was rapidly flying over. If he delayed any longer, that sage would surely lock onto his location immediately. His thoughts raced, and he simply teleported directly into the flower palanquin. After all, he had the Snow Maiden Great Sage's hair protecting him. Even if that failed, he still had the Grand Void Divine Tree to rely on. This woman's bewilderment arts should be ineffective against him. Inside the palanquin, fragrance permeated the air. A woman in a red, narrow-waisted, wide-sleeved long dress, her figure exceedingly graceful, was reclining on a soft couch, leisurely sizing him up. At this moment, the face she had conjured was actually that of Liu Ruxu. The woman patted the soft couch beside her, speaking in a gentle, warm voice. "Young master, sit beside this humble servant." Gazing at Liu Ruxu's long, mist face, Fang Chen was slightly dazed for a moment, but he still shook his head slightly, signaling refusal. This woman was strange and unfathomable. It was better to remain vigilant. Just then, a sage's voice sounded from outside the palanquin, so it turns out to be the Earth Realm's foremost courtesan on an outing. "Tusk, tusk, tusk. I've been here 2 months, and you stayed behind closed doors. Now that I'm about to leave, you just happened to go out. Miss Pianru must not want to give me a chance to taste your fragrance charms." Pianru covered her mouth with a light laugh, responding through the palanquin. "If Senior comes again next time, how about Pianru plays the kin for you alone?" The sage from beyond the heavens pressed to pursue Wang Lingxiao, and with no time to waste, asked bluntly, "Have you encountered a person called Wang Lingxiao?" His gaze was sharp, looking directly at the palanquin. Earlier, he had clearly noticed someone dart into the palanquin. It was just that the palanquin had its own protective restrictions, firmly blocking that probing gaze outside. Inside the palanquin, Pianru's appearance had transformed into the gentle and serene visage of Yun Shang. She looked at Fang Chen standing before her with a half-smile, and once more gently patted the soft couch beside her. Her pair of eloquent eyes clearly conveyed a threat of threat. If he didn't obey, she would expose him. Fang Chen had no desire to engage a sage in battle within such a bustling city. Even the slightest combat would instantly draw countless experts to spectate. He had no choice but to approach the soft couch and sit down beside Pianru. Pianru gave a satisfied, pressed-lip smile, then called out loudly, "Wang Lingxiao, who is that? I don't know him." That worthy frowned slightly, but didn't dwell on it, then drifted aimlessly elsewhere. Pianru glanced sideways with a smile, her voice tinged with amusement. "So your name is Wang Lingxiao then? Young Master Wang, you have quite the skill." My charm arts can even sway a first calamity realm worthy, yet you easily broke free. Fang Chen also sized her up and cut straight to the point. You invited me into the palanquin, surely not just out of curiosity about my abilities, right? Pian Ru's appearance shifted again, transforming into the pure and captivating maidenly face of Lingxiao. She said with a cheerful smile, "Young Master Wang, isn't this appearance exactly the one you fancy?" She smiled lightly, her gaze clearly reflecting Fang Chen's image, her eyes flowing with tender affection. That verve and essence truly recreated Lingxiao with about 70 to 80% likeness. Fang Chen stared, slightly stunned, and after a long moment sighed, "No wonder you became the top courtesan of the Earth Realm. How many in the world could refuse you?" Those beloved faces, hidden deep in one's heart, could all be recreated, one by one, on Pian Ru. Who could encounter that and not fall into obsession? Pian Ru tilted her head slightly and leaned against his shoulder, speaking softly. Someone once said, "When fate begins, I see you among millions. When fate ends, I see you among aliens." Young Master Wang, why does the same scene carry two completely opposite meanings? Feeling the faint, fresh scent of grass and trees from her shoulder, Fang Chen couldn't help but smile. This woman not only copied Lingxiao's face, but even the natural fragrance of her body, down to the finest detail. He couldn't bear to abruptly push away the beauty who so resembled Lingxiao, so he said with a smile, "It's naturally a difference in state of mind. One is picking it up, the other is letting it go." Pian Ru threw her head back with a coquettish laugh, her jade-like arms gently encircling Fang Chen as half her body nestled in his embrace. "Then I've picked it up. Today's outing, I passed through millions, yet stopped only for you. That is our fate. So young Master Wang is my honored patron of the day." Fang Chen openly put his arm around her, his gaze focusing slightly. "Honored patron, is it? Then are we heading to your abode now?" A courtesan's abode might indeed serve as a quiet place to hide. Pian Ru's face shifted through a series of changes, finally settling into an unfamiliar oval face with an expression equally captivating, whether angry or happy. She raised a slender jade finger and waved it before Fang Chen's eyes, a strand of silver hair twining around her fingertip. "So, you relied on this strand of hair to block my law, and I thought you were truly something formidable." Fang Chen's expression abruptly changed. "You?" An invisible wave of law had already invaded his consciousness, violently seeking to dominate him. Fortunately, the familiar rustling sound of the Taixu ancient tree arrived on cue, instantly and firmly blocking the wave outside. But Fang Chen decided to play along, directly putting on an act of being charmed and controlled, mimicking the fanatical expressions of the followers outside the palanquin, with aims of obsession burning in his eyes. He suddenly grabbed Pian Ru's shoulders, calling out fervently, "Pian Ru, Pian Ru." Pian Ru withdrew her smile, shoved Fang Chen away with a palm, and said disappointedly, boring, "But since a worthy is hunting you, you must have some value, right? You should fetch a good price." With that, she took out a jade slip and transmitted a message into it. "The ancient giants have suddenly retreated. Order in the Earth realm is about to be restored. Please, Chief, strike ahead of schedule." She didn't notice at all that the corner of Fang Chen's eye twitched imperceptibly. After all this widely renowned courtesan was actually a human trafficker at heart. And there was clearly a mysterious organization behind her. Fang Chen's eyes flickered as he secretly calculated, could he turn the tables and use this organization to quietly leave the Earth realm? Immediately, he remained completely composed, silently allowing himself to be manipulated by Pian Ru. Pian Ru reactivated the flower palanquin and continued the outing, or more precisely, searching for valuable targets to capture and sell. At that moment, a roar that shook the whole area erupted from ahead. "Champion Marquis Fang Chen, you seduced my wife, I'll kill you." A burly man, exuding a first calamity realm aura, was seen furiously chasing a handsome youth who was running for his life while holding up his pants. The youth's appearance was unmistakably that of Fang Chen. No, that was Wang Chengxi, disguised as Fang Chen. Inside the palanquin, the bored Pian Ru suddenly stood up and exclaimed in shock, "Champion Marquis Fang Chen. The noble ladies wanting to collect him are as numerous as ox hairs. I heard a mysterious noble lady even offered an attack-type realm artifact to buy him." Pian Ru's breathing quickened abruptly, her eyes shooting out rays of delighted light. Fang Chen, standing by, nearly coughed up blood on the spot upon hearing this. What did that mean? There really was a wealthy matron who wanted to keep him as a lover. No, to collect him. And at the sky-high price of an attack-type realm artifact. Even Fang Chen was tempted by what he heard, wishing he could personally sell himself to that noble lady. A shrewd glint flashed in Payan Ru's eyes. She immediately urged the flower palanquin, and countless petals were swept up by the wind, gently brushing over the two in the chase. The raging worthy, his shout reaching the heavens, had the ferocity instantly vanish from his eyes, replaced by a face full of infatuation, and he even voluntarily melded into the crowd following behind. As for Wang Chengxiao, he acted as if nothing had happened, completely unresponsive. Payan Ru said in amazement, as expected of a treasure fought over by noble ladies, truly extraordinary. She resorted to her old trick again, poked out her head, and while activating her law, called out softly, "Would you care to share a cup with Payan Ru, young master?" Her facial appearance shifted for a while before finally settling. Fang Chen looked over curiously. He wanted to see just who the most important woman in Wang Chengxiao's heart that this woman reflected truly was. Yet, with just one glance, Fang Chen was so shocked that he nearly lost his composure. It was an exquisitely beautiful face, so stunning it seemed not of mortal creation. Any praise of beauty in the world would seem pale and impotent before it. The moment that face appeared, the surrounding time and space seemed to freeze. Fang Chen, too, was momentarily dazed by this ravishing splendor. There was only one person under heaven who could be so beautiful as to make him lose his composure like this. Priestess Ling Yin. So the most important person in Wang Chengxiao's heart was actually Ling Yin. Could it be that Wang Chengxiao had fallen in love with Ling Yin? But given Ling Yin's rule, breaking beauty, it was reasonable for Wang Chengxiao to be moved by her. The stumbling Wang Chengxiao also froze on the spot when he saw that face so resembling Ling Yin. "You are? No, you are not." Wang Chengxiao suddenly came to his senses, warily retreated with a leap backward, and intended to flee immediately. But behind him, successive shouts of pursuit rang out. Those chasing him were far more than just that woman's husband. There were actually several of her lovers as well. He glanced at the flower palanquin before him, gritted his teeth fiercely, and darted inside with a flash, bowing and cupping his hands. "Fairy, please help block them for me." Just as he spoke, he suddenly caught sight of another man inside the palanquin, and that face was extremely familiar. Taking a closer look, his whole person froze on the spot. Isn't this his own face? Which god-cursed bastard was impersonating him? But he was currently impersonating Fang Chen, so he dared not expose them, let alone make a sound, so he could only glare viciously at the other man before pretending nothing was. Miss and pleading with Payan Ru for help. Payan Ru's heart was already blooming with joy. Today's luck was just too good. To have encountered two silly valuable commodities, ha ha ha. She feigned demureness, imitated Ling Yin's ethereal and detached voice, and softly uttered just two words, "Of course." Then she reached out and patted the soft couch beside her, signaling Wang Chengxiao to come sit. Fang Chen, watching from the side, was utterly speechless. This woman really does get by everywhere with one trick. Seeing this, Wang Chengxiao's brows shot up sharply. His feet didn't budge an inch, clearly unwilling to go over and sit. But hearing the shouts of pursuit approaching, he had no choice but to grit his teeth and reluctantly shuffle over. Thus Payan Ru contentedly steered the flower palanquin onward, nonchalantly passing through the crowd who were trying to catch the adulterers. Payan Ru gently leaned her head on Wang Chengxiao's shoulder, repeating her old trick by wrapping her arms around his waist, and breathed out like orchids, "Fang, my love, it's been a long time." Unexpectedly, Wang Chengxiao's shoulders jerked violently, instantly shaking her off, and he shouted sternly, "What are you doing? Have you no shame?" "Eh?" Fang Chen froze on the spot. Could Wang Chengxiao really be so righteous? Even when a celestial beauty like Ling Yin throws herself into his arms, he remains completely unmoved. Or perhaps Ling Yin's importance to Wang Chengxiao is not due to romantic love. Payan Ru was also slightly taken aback. Never, since she began operating, had anyone been able to withstand this move. After all, it was the person one cherished most in their heart. Impossible for anyone to resist. She hastily masked her surprise, then once again hugged Wang Chengxiao's arm tightly, and said pathetically, "Fang Lang, what's wrong? Don't you recognize me?" The disgust on Wang Chengxiao's face intensified. He bellowed in anger, "You filthy woman, is there no end to this?" With that, he violently shook off Payan Ru's hand. Payan Ru was instantly enraged. Her figure flickered, and she instantly reverted to her original appearance, her oval face brimming with coldness. "You prefer a forfeit over a toast?" Before her words had faded, her body abruptly disintegrated, transforming into a sky full of colorful blooms that fiercely enveloped Wang Chengxiao, instantly forming a human-shaped wall of flowers. "You madwoman, what are you doing?" Wang Chengxiao struggled within for a while before gradually falling silent. Shortly after, the flowers all detached from Wang Chengxiao's body and condensed back into Pian Ru. Now, Wang Chengxiao's entire body was covered in eerie floral imprints, constantly radiating a bewitching illusion. His eyes vacant, he stared at Pian Ru with an infatuated gaze. He had clearly been forcibly enchanted. Fang Chen watched covertly and mused. This woman's body can disperse into countless flowers. Either she is not human, or this is merely a doppelganger puppet. Considering there was a massive organization behind her, the latter was far more likely. Pian Ru triumphantly lifted Wang Chengxiao's chin and clicked her tongue with a laugh. So what if he's the renowned champion Marquis? He still ends up obediently in my hands. Later, I'll sell you for a good price. Just as she was laughing, she suddenly sensed something. A flash of joy appeared on her face, and she said excitedly, "We finally get to make our move. I've had enough of this wretched place." Under her control, the flower palanquin immediately turned and departed. The crowd that had been bewitched by it remained frozen in place, only coming to their senses one after another after it had completely vanished. They were all bewildered, with no memory of what had happened. After about the time it takes to brew a cup of tea, the palanquin shuttled through space several times and finally reached the very center of the city. There, 9 grandiose gambling dens, brothels, and taverns were arranged in concentric circles, forming a massive ring that tightly encased a giant then yellow spring at the very center. From within the spring, an endless torrent of murky yellow mud flowed out continuously, seeping into the earth's veins and spreading throughout the world. It was not difficult to guess what that spring was. This had to be the world core of the Earth realm. What was Pian Ru doing here? Could her true goal for lurking in the Earth realm be this world core? Thoughts raced through Fang Chen's mind as he pondered secretly. He suddenly recalled that several realms had recently had their world cores forcibly snatched during moments of vulnerability. Coupled with Pian Ru's earlier muttering about advancing their schedule, Fang Chen's heart clenched in alarm. Could this Pian Ru be a member of that gang seizing world cores? He was speechless. How could the sage of the Earth realm allow his world core to be stolen? A cataclysmic battle was bound to erupt between both sides. In the worst case, he himself would be dragged into it. He had intended to use this woman to lie low for a while, but instead, he had been thrust into a colossal disaster. He had to get out immediately. Just as he was about to leave, the palanquin suddenly came to a halt just before reaching the spring and sharply veered into a side alley. Immediately after, Pian Ru activated the palanquin's ability, entering a state of concealment. Her eyes gleamed with anticipation as she sensed the activities outside, murmuring to herself, "There's going to be a huge upheaval soon. I just need to wait for the right moment to join up with them." Then she turned to look at Fang Chen and Wang Chengxiao, giggled, and patted the soft couches on either side of her. "Come sit over here. It wasn't easy to get my hands on you two valuable goods. I can't afford to leave you behind." A sharp glint flashed surreptitiously in Fang Chen's eyes. This wretched woman had not only taken his hair but also intended to sell him off. He absolutely could not let her get away with it. Pretending to comply, he moved to sit down, ready to strike. At that very moment, Wang Chengxiao, who was bending down to sit, suddenly and without any warning, produced a large yellow club and launched a sudden assault, viciously smashing it toward Pian Ru's head. The strike was utterly merciless, devoid of any pity. The ferocity was far greater than when Fang Chen had smashed him previously. But Pian Ru's body suddenly dissolved once more, instantly scattering into a great expanse of flowers. The heavy yellow club swung down, crushing only a few petals. The scattered flowers instantly coalesced back into Pian Ru's graceful form. Clutching her faintly aching shoulder, her face showed shock and suspicion as she cried out involuntarily, "You were faking it." Wang Chengxiao sneered contemptuously and said coldly, "You dead woman, with those petty tricks of yours, you dare play games with me. You're far too green." Pian Ru gritted her teeth fiercely and growled, "Wang Chengxiao, pin him down. Once my true body arrives, he won't be able to escape even if he grows wings." Without a moment's hesitation, Fang Chen answered, "Yes." Then, turning to Wang Chengxiao, he shouted fiercely, "How dare you harm Pian Ru? I swear I'll never rest until you're dead." Wang Chengxiao laughed in his fury and cursed, "You cur, I haven't settled accounts with you for impersonating me yet. Let's see who you really are." Without a word, Fang Chen reached back and produced the large black club. After nurturing it for a full month with both purple crystal ore and zurang, this divine wood had finally undergone an earth-shaking transformation. That purple bud had now grown into a single mystical leaf, swirling with currents of purple mist. Originally only as wide as a palm, the divine wood was now so thick that it required 2 hands to grip, and its surface was covered with strange purple welts. Excitement surged secretly within his heart. This damned wood had finally grown. Before, it could at most make a grand venerable's head ache. Now was the perfect time to test its newfound might. Seeing that both of them were wielding clubs, Pian Ru was momentarily stunned and muttered, since when did clubs become fashionable as weapons? She then shook her head and leisurely ordered, attack, let him know how formidable you are. Fang Chen nodded, raised the massive black club high, and swung it down with extreme ferocity. A dull, meaty thwack suddenly echoed. Immediately after, Pian Ru's agonized howl erupted as she stamped her feet in pain. Tilde Wang Chen, Xiao, you two. That's right, Fang Chen's club had solidly smashed onto Pian Ru's head. Fang Chen snorted heavily. You dead woman, you thought you could sell me. You didn't even weigh your own worth. Without waiting for his words to finish, he raised the black club again. Pian Ru was in so much pain her head felt like splitting, her vision going black. Yet she forcefully endured the excruciating pain, her body instantly turning into a scattering of petals as she desperately fled toward the palanquin's exit. However, just as she reached the doorway, a yellow-rod shadow viciously lashed out, forcibly whipping the cluster of petals back inside. Pian Ru let out a piercing shriek. Before she could recover, Fang Chen's massive black club, carrying a howling wind, struck again ferociously. One in front, one behind, the two swung their clubs in a relentless pincer attack. Pian Ru was battered back and forth like a ball, her screams rising higher and higher. Finally, Pian Ru coalesced back into human form and collapsed heavily onto the ground. She was beaten black and blue, her body covered in blood. With a trembling finger, she shakily pointed at Fang Chen and Wang Chen, Xiao, and, sobbing, stammered, you two are simply inhuman. Just as she finished speaking, a black club came crashing down. With an ague of agony, Pian Ru's vision went dark, and she completely lost consciousness. Fang Chen spat and cursed. You're the one who's not human. With that, he deftly flipped her over, rummaged through her bosom, and quickly retrieved that lock of silver hair belonging to great sage Zhu Jai. Additionally, he also dug out a large handful of petals. Petals? Good stuff. I'll take them. A handkerchief in your bosom, seized. These clothes are so fragrant they must have an illusory effect. Strip them off. Wang Chengxi, who saw Fang Chen looting with extreme proficiency, quickly ran over, and in one swift motion, yanked the hairpin from her hair. A high-grade spiritual artifact, seized. A storage jade bracelet, mine. These pants actually have an invisibility effect. Off with them. With unspoken understanding, the two set aside their grudges and united against a common foe. Shortly after, Fang Chen smilingly inventoried the treasures he had acquired. Wang Chengxiao's eyes were also gleaming with joy as he happily tallied the good finds. Now look at Pian Ru. She lay motionless on the ground, only a single belly band covering her chest. After finishing his inventory, Wang Chengxi shot a sidelong glance at Fang Chen, and upon seeing that face identical to his own, his expression instantly darkened. You're Fang Chen, aren't you? That adept technique for looting treasures, that familiar, looking big black rod, and that practiced posture for beating people, he was all too familiar with it. Looking across all the myriad heavens, he had never seen a second person so utterly shameless. Fang Chen had also put away his treasures, and without any pretense, gave a heavy snort. Wang Chengxiao, we meet again. Upon confirmation, Wang Chengxiao's mental defense instantly shattered, and he burst out cursing. Fang Chen, you son of a bitch, isn't it enough that you've been impersonating me? Fang Chen's face darkened immediately as he retorted harshly, you cursed wretch. I impersonated you to fight the ancient giants for the great cause of humanity. But you impersonated me to seduce a married woman, tarnishing my reputation. Wang Chengxiao was angered to the point of laughter. HMPH, twisting logic. Other than fighting the ancient giants, how many times have you impersonated me elsewhere? Every time there's a good deed or a chance to show off, you remember to announce your own real name. But as soon as you do something bad, you immediately become me, Wang Chengxiao. So it turns out all the benefits go to you, while I shoulder all the infamy. Hearing this, Fang Chen flared up even more. No matter what bad things I did, I never seduced another woman. Seeing Fang Chen so enraged, Wang Chengxiao's anger dissipated instead, and he couldn't help but burst out laughing. Laughing, he taunted freely, ha ha ha, although my original intention wasn't to take the blame for you, seeing you suffer is truly wonderful. You just obediently carry this part of blame. As Fang Chen fumed, he suddenly had a second thought. He himself had just pinned a huge black mark on Wang Lingxiao, so his anger instantly vanished. Strictly speaking, the things he did were even more shameless than the others. Cough, cough, cough. It's better to end enmity than to entangle it. Let bygones be bygones. Fang Chen immediately put on a look of harmonious conciliation, waved his hand, and said, "I'll take my leave first. Farewell." Wang Lingxiao couldn't help but be filled with suspicion. When had that scoundrel Fang Chen become so easygoing? Then, recalling that Fang Chen was still wearing his own face, his heart leaped up with alarm, and he sharply questioned, "Did you just pull another big stunt using my identity?" Fang Chen waved his hands repeatedly, saying with a straight face, "Absolutely not. I am not that kind of person. Something big is about to happen here. We'd better leave quickly." Wang Lingxiao felt more and more that Fang Chen had a guilty conscience, but alas, he had also heard every word of Pianru's earlier soliloquy. This place is indeed far from safe. They must leave immediately. However, before the two could make a move, a dull, deafening crash of crack was heard, as if heaven and earth were being torn apart, instantly echoing throughout the entire world, followed by a violent, thunderous roar from the sky. Hiding within the sedan chair, the two abruptly looked up toward the sky. They saw a boundless, giant rift stretching across the firmament, appearing starkly overhead. A terrifying suction force erupted instantly, sweeping all houses and living beings on the ground not protected by formations into the void beyond the rift. And within that void, a pitch-black giant warship hovered silently, like a small continent spanning the void, an exceptionally spectacular sight. Upon the warship stood a blood-red mast, and on the sail hanging from its top was prominently imprinted the symbol of a white skull. The moment he saw that symbol, Fang Chen's pupils contracted sharply, and he blurted out, "Deathly silence, pirates." He spun his head back to look at Pianru, slumped on the ground. So it turned out the mysterious organization behind Pianru was the Deathly Silence Pirates. It was this group that had been plundering weakened worlds everywhere, seizing their world fetuses. Wang Lingxiao, on the other hand, showed little surprise, merely adding calmly, "To be precise, this is the third fleet of the Deathly Silence Pirates." Among the Deathly Silence Pirates, different fleets have distinct duties. The three strongest fleets, the first, second, and third, are specifically tasked with searching for world fetuses scattered across the heavens and earth. Fang Chen glanced at Wang Lingxiao with slight surprise. How did he know so clearly? The appearance of the third fleet instantly triggered a massive uproar. Before the sages of the Earth realm could react, a pirate member at the divine transformation stage, clutching a giant life sack, streaked into the world like a meteor. The person abruptly opened the life sack, completing the infiltration in an instant. As a terrifying aura gushed from the sack like a blowout, 9 powerful beings radiating sage-level pressure emerged from within. They were all clad in black robes bearing the skull insignia, their forms and features entirely concealed in shadow. The leading figure was a tall, mysterious individual with a distinctly feminine silhouette, and the aura emanating from her was so powerful it suffocated. That was actually a powerhouse at the Three Calamities realm. Fang Chen couldn't help but be secretly alarmed. Just one fleet had a Three Calamities expert presiding over it. Then how many Three Calamities experts were there in the entire Deathly Silence Pirates? Such a terrifying force, if they were to assault a world, aside from the 4 great realms and the divine capital, probably few worlds could withstand them, right? For the first time, he truly felt the vastness and dreadfulness of this pirate power. The female leader issued an icy command, her voice devoid of emotion, "Act swiftly." The 9 of them were already prepared. Each took out a flying claw and forcefully drove it into the ground of the spring eye. The flying claws were entirely blood-red, connected by a transparent sinew thread. Fang Chen was momentarily stunned. These flying claws were exactly the same as the artifact used by that two-faced alien. Then, the identity of the other party was obvious. It was the Deathly Silence Pirates. Their purpose in infiltrating the Ice Realm and heading to its world fetus was probably to scout its condition in preparation for today's seizure. Fang Chen furrowed his brow slightly, unable to help worrying about the Ice Realm. He didn't care whether others lived or died, but Sage Bai Yan must absolutely not perish at the hands of these people. Heave, with a low shout from the female leader, the 9 exerted force in unison, yanking hard on the sinew ropes. From deep within the earth, instantly came the terrifying sound of the world barrier cracking with a crack. They were actually working together to hoist up the spring eye and the earth beneath it, along with the world barrier at the bottom, and carry it all away. Only in this way could they achieve it in one strike before the sages of the Earth realm arrived. Very quickly, a landmass of unimaginable vastness was forcibly dragged by the Nine toward the warship in the void. Meanwhile, the sages of the Earth realm, having focused all their efforts on searching for Fang Chen's whereabouts, had actually neglected to send anyone to guard this place. It was only when the landmass was completely dragged out of the Earth realm, and the entire realm resonated with unending rumbling moans, that the great sage of the Earth realm, ally belatedly arrived at the scene. His eyes nearly bursting from his skull, he roared with fury, "Deathly silence, pirates! How dare you seize our Earth realm's world fetus?" Before the words had finished, his entire body erupted with unparalleled power of law, a force brimming with all manner of desires from the depths of human nature. Even with the great void ancient tree protecting his body, Fang Chen now felt a surge of intense greed and lust burgeoning madly in his heart, gradually spiraling out of control. He turned his head to look behind him at Painru, whose body was largely exposed, and the desires in his heart grew even stronger. Fortunately, as the great void ancient tree kept rustling, coupled with the constant cool sensation transmitted by Sage Zuji's hair strands, the desires, on the verge of losing control, were finally completely suppressed. Fang Chen's mind had just barely regained clarity, but in that instant, a foul wind suddenly struck. It was Wang Lingxiao, seizing the moment when he was off guard, launching a cross sneak attack. That guy is actually completely unaffected by the desire law. Without hesitation, Fang Chen raised his left arm to block. The yellow cudgel smashed heavily onto his arm, sending a faint tingling numbness through it. He couldn't help but feel secretly astonished. At this moment, his body was a genuine Saint Realm physique. This blow actually managed to make him feel numb. The effects of this cudgel on those below the Saint Realm were probably no less than that divine wood he once possessed. This was undoubtedly a divine wood as well. "You're actually fine." Wang Lingxiao's face showed an incredulous, shocked expression. He could withstand the laws of an Earth Realm great saint because boundless fortune was counteracting the calamity for him. What gave Fang Chen the right? The response was the divine wood swinging from Fang Chen's right hand. Courtesy demands reciprocation. Wang Lingxiao also raised his hand to block, mimicking Fang Chen's earlier move, but unexpectedly, a tyrannical force far beyond expectation struck instantly, smashing his entire arm clean off. And the divine wood's momentum didn't slow, following up with a vicious smack onto his head. Ordinarily, at Wang Lingxiao's current realm of heavenly man, 3 decays, this blow should have knocked him unconscious on the spot. Who would have thought, with a muffled weng boom, the divine wood was actually violently rebounded by a tremendous force. Wang Lingxiao merely let out an ow of pained howl. Seizing the chance, he rapidly retreated, gaining distance, and while awkwardly rubbing the swelling on his head, he smugly said, "Didn't expect that, huh? I specially reinforced this head of mine, precisely to guard against a bastard like you launching a sneak attack from behind. Your stick is useless against me now." Fang Chen touched his chin and said leisurely, "Is that so? Well, how unfortunate. I also recently happened to acquire a new stick." As he spoke, the divine wood in his hand flashed and disappeared. In its place was a gigantic iron rod gleaming with golden light. Fang Chen raised the great iron rod with both hands and, aiming right at Wang Lingxiao's forehead, brought it smashing down with full force head on. Wang Lingxiao's face instantly turned ashen, and he cried out in alarm, "That's the pillar of sky stabilization from the great Kayan divine kingdom. How the hell is this thing in your hands?" In his panic, he hastily took out several defensive jade talismans and swiftly draped a fish-scale-like blanket over himself, wrapping himself up layer upon layer. With a series of crisp cracking sounds, under the terrifying gravity of the sky stabilization pillar, those defensive jade talismans were crushed to smithereens as if made of paper. The fish-scale wool blank it also held for only a moment before tearing apart with a ripping sound, revealing Wang Lingxiao hidden within. Finally, with a heavy, muffled bang, the sky stabilization pillar solidly smashed onto his forehead. The sky stabilization pillar, which could crush the Tao body of even a first Calamity Realm expert, now pressing heavily on Wang Lingxiao's forehead, astonishingly did not smash it apart. It only struck him until stars swirled in his vision, his legs trembled uncontrollably, and he swayed and collapsed limply to the ground. With slight effort, Fang Chen arrested the sky stabilization pillar's momentum, casually tossed it back into his spatial storage device, then excitedly rubbed his hands together, like a fly spotting honey, his eyes gleaming as he sized up Wang Lingxiao on the ground. The most thrilling harvesting moment had finally arrived. Fang Chen glanced at the shattered jade talismans on the ground and the tattered fish, gale blanket, and a pained expression instantly appeared on his face. But he quickly suppressed his regret, and with one tug tore open Wang Chengxiao's lapels, his hands nimbly frisking for hidden treasures. Wang Chengxiao felt darkness pressing in waves, and in his hazy consciousness, he still desperately grabbed Fang Chen's wrist, and, with a breath as faint as gossamer, pleaded, "Time, leave me an extra piece of clothing." Fang Chen grinned, flashing a row of white teeth, and reassured, "Don't worry, we're brothers, I know my limits." Before the words finished, he swung a punch and unceremoniously slammed it onto Wang Chengxiao's forehead, knocking him out completely on the spot. Immediately after, he grabbed Wang Chengxiao's collar and yanked hard. With a clattering jumble of colliding sounds, a heap of miscellaneous items fell out from his bosom. The first to fall out were the spoils looted from Pian Ru that he hadn't had time to store in his spatial storage. Following that, a cursed and sealed spatial storage device rolled out. Other than that, his body was cleanly bare, without a single extra item. Seeing this, Fang Chen's brows knotted into a tight frown, and he muttered with great dissatisfaction, "No way, why aren't you following the script? Where are my treasures?" "Could it be you stuffed all my good stuff into this storage device?" "After all this trouble, in the end I didn't even get a single feather. Isn't this deal a huge loss?" The more he thought about it, the angrier he got. He glanced down at the unconscious Wang Chengxiao on the ground, and said resentfully, "With your stingy appearance, you still expect me to leave you an extra piece of clothing." Rage surged from his heart, and with both hands he tore Wang Chengxiao's lapels apart left and right. With a crisp rip of fabric, he stripped the outer garment off Wang Chengxiao completely. At that moment, Fang Chen's gaze suddenly fixed, staring intently at Wang Chengxiao's chest. There, hidden close to his skin, was a painting as thin as a cicada's wing. He cautiously touched it with a fingertip. The material of the painting was cold and smooth, its texture as fine as youthful skin. Looking closely, one could even faintly see minuscule sweat pores. As if scorched by fire, Fang Chen abruptly pulled back his hand, a chill running through his heart. This was actually a piece of human skin parchment, flayed from a living person. Even more disconcerting, on this human skin parchment was meticulously drawn an ancient-style crown. Having endured the baptism of endless ages, the pattern of this crown had long become blurry and indistinguishable, its fine textures hard to recognize. Yet, even across boundless time, an indescribable worldness, deigning imperial majesty, still surged forth through this blurred image. The moment he gazed intently at the crown, Fang Chen felt as if a certain memory deep within his bloodline, inherited from ancient ancestors, had been instantly activated. All bones in his body let out wails, and his body uncontrollably wanted to kneel and kowtow in worship before the image. What exactly is this crown? A mere painting can carry such terrifying pressure. Terrified, Fang Chen's forehead was instantly covered in beads of cold sweat. Forcibly enduring the awe and impulse from his soul, before his knees could fully bend, he hurriedly made a grasping motion through the air and, at the fastest speed, stored the human skin painting into his storage space. Only when the painting disappeared did that abyssal ocean, like pressure, abruptly vanish. Fang Chen felt his entire body suddenly relax, as if he had just been fished out of water, his clothes soaked through with cold sweat. He panted heavily, and the boiling blood within his body gradually calmed down. The sweat on his forehead also quietly receded. Following that, a sour ache emerged from the depths of his bone marrow, swiftly spreading throughout his entire body. Merely taking a close look at this painting for a single glance brought about such severe backlash. If this painting could truly be activated by divine powers like those great ability treasures, what kind of heaven-destroying, earth-shattering, terrifying scene would that be? Where on earth did that fellow Wang Chengxiao get such an utterly sinister treasure? It seems when I have free time later, I must put great effort into thoroughly studying this painting. Just as his mind was shaken, a heaven-shaking boom resounded, and a visible terrifying battle shockwave exploded in midair, sweeping across all directions. The earth was violently ripped up as if by an invisible giant hand, heaven and earth overturned. Even the 9 brothels, taverns, and gambling dens, set with sturdy defensive arrays, were reduced to dust in an instant, none spared. The palanquin, in which Fang Chen and the others were hiding in the alley, was directly blasted, spinning into the sky by this brutal force. It was clearly a mighty expert from the Earth realm, clashing in a world-shaking frontal battle with the top master of the Dead Sound Pirate Third Fleet. Fang Chen struggled to steady himself in the fierce wind, but his eyes abruptly blazed with intense, burning light. This moment is the most chaotic in this realm. Chaos means variables. An opportunity to escape could arise at any time. His mind raced, and his gaze fell upon Wang Chengxiao beside him. After a brief pause, he leaned down and carefully felt around Wang Chengxiao's face with his hand. Sure enough, his fingertips soon brushed against a soft, thin membrane with a peculiar texture. Fang Chen pinched the edge of the layer and gently pulled it down. With a soft SSS sound, a membrane as thin as a cicada's wing and almost completely transparent was steadily peeled off. A powerful pressure belonging to a quasi-realm artifact emanated faintly from this mask. Fang Chen was overjoyed. He hurriedly probed it with a wisp of divine sense to examine its functions. Moments later, the smile on his face could no longer be suppressed, blooming like a chrysanthemum across his brows. A quasi-realm artifact disguise mask, and it can transform into anyone at will. He originally had an ice crystal pendant as a disguise aid, but it required constant replenishment with ice bath laws to maintain its effect. Now the stored law power within was almost exhausted and wouldn't last much longer. But now it was as if someone sent a pillow just as he was getting sleepy. He had obtained an even better quasi-realm artifact mask for free. Fang Chen quickly assessed the gains. From this engagement, he had successively acquired that eerie and unpredictable humans, skin painting, this quasi-realm artifact disguise mask. That heavy and mysterious yellow club, and Wang Chengxiao's personal spatial storage device. Each of these items was a priceless treasure. It was truly a bountiful harvest. The more Fang Chen thought about it, the more elated he became. He couldn't help but grin at Wang Chengxiao, sincerely exclaiming, "Brother Wang, oh Brother Wang, you are a walking treasure trove and a sworn friend. How lucky I am to have you." However, the moment his words fell, the entire bridal sedan suddenly shook violently without warning. Cracking sounds erupted from every part of the structure, as if it were about to fall apart at any moment. Fang Chen and his two companions inside were immediately tossed about by the sudden force, colliding with one another repeatedly. Fang Chen urgently extended his divine sense outward, and his pupils abruptly contracted. He saw that the sedan they were in, along with the 9 buildings that had long been reduced to ruins, were being swept up by a violent force of nothingness and involuntarily dragged into the very center of the fierce battle between the two sides. The destructive shockwaves from the two forces' clash swept through, instantly grinding the ruins of the 9 buildings into dust that drifted with the wind. Although the sedan barely maintained its shape due to its sturdy material, the invisibility seals attached to it had completely collapsed and dissipated, exposing it without any concealment to the sight of the warring parties. Those ordinary sages might be blocked by the physical barrier of the sedan from probing gazes, but how could this fragile barrier deceive the vastly powerful Earth Realm Great Sage? The sharp gaze of the Earth Realm Great Sage swept over and instantly locked onto Fang Chen inside the sedan. He was first stunned, then subconsciously blurted out, "Wang Chengxiao." It was precisely because they were chasing that scoundrel Wang Chengxi, that the Earth Realm had been caught off guard by the Death Sound pirates, leading to today's calamity. At this thought, killing intent flashed violently in the Earth Realm Great Sage's eyes. His face darkened like water, and without hesitation, he raised a finger and pointed remotely at the sedan. This gesture seemed casual, but the terrifying power contained within it was sufficient to instantly annihilate the entire sedan along with Fang Chen and the others into nothingness. On the other side, the female commander of the Death Sound Pirates' 3rd Fleet, upon seeing that sedan, also slightly contracted her beautiful pupils. She recognized at a glance that this sedan was the very vehicle of her avatar. As a lofty great sage, how could she stand idly by and watch her avatar die an inexplicable death at the hands of the Earth Realm Great Sage? The woman let out a cold snort, her crimson lips parted slightly, and a beam of purple divine light shot out from her mouth like a bolt of silk, arriving first to firmly shield the sedan. The two terrifying attacks, representing the supreme might of the 3 Calamities realm, collided violently right in front of the sedan. Yet even the weakened aftershocks still contained a heaven, destroying, earth-shattering ferocity. The sedan, already riddled with wounds and hidden damage, could no longer withstand such force. With a pitiful crack, it violently exploded midair, shattering into pieces. The instant the sedan shattered, Fang Chen's pupils contracted to their limit. In that life or death moment, he did not hesitate to take out the wind god, command flag, and bellowed, "Avoid." He clearly remembered that the Snow Maiden Great Sage had once said that this flag possessed the miraculous ability to command all flowing forces under heaven. This violent shockwave, formless and intangible, surging and rolling, should also fall under the category of flowing. A miraculous scene unfolded before his eyes. As he gave the order, the terrifying shockwave that had been about to engulf and pulverize the three of them actually seemed to obey his command, as if possessing intelligence, and obediently split to flow past both sides of their bodies, then roared away into the distance. However, those experts nearby, who had just entered the One Calamity realm, were not so lucky. Hit squarely by the diverted shockwave, they were instantly severely injured, coughing up blood uncontrollably. Joy surged in Fang Chen's heart. This Wind God command flag was indeed mysterious and unfathomable, proving its amazing effect at a critical moment. The distant Earthrealm Great Sage witnessed this, his expression growing even colder. He let out a cold snort and said with a chilling tone, HMPH, this damned brat has quite a few treasures. Before his words faded, his sleeve billowed as he waved his hand casually. A pitch-black dagger instantly pierced through the void, silently and viciously stabbing towards Fang Chen's forehead. This was a magical tool attack personally launched by a Three Calamities realm Great Sage. How terrifying its might. Almost certain death upon contact for those of the same realm, impossible to evade. Fang Chen's face turned deathly pale, his heart pounding as if about to burst from his chest. The Wind God command flag could only manipulate intangible flowing forces. It was utterly helpless against such a tangible magical tool attack infused with killing intent. At this critical moment, he didn't even have time to summon the immortal King Indestructible Bell, his most powerful life-saving treasure. Fortunately, a flash of inspiration born from survival instinct surged within him. He abruptly twisted sideways, grabbed a fistful of Wang Chengxiao's hair, and without a word, yanked his entire body up to shield himself. This bastard's luck was heaven, defying, no matter what, he couldn't be killed. At this moment, he was the world's best defensive treasure. Sure enough, the heaven-defying scene that left everyone dumbfounded happened once again. The pitch-black dagger, carrying boundless destructive power, at the final instant of piercing through the air, eerily deviated slightly from its target, whistling past Wang Chengxiao's side without harming a single hair. Yes, it missed. A dignified great sage of the Three Calamities realm, right before countless eyes, trying to kill an unconscious person right in front of him, actually missed. The shot went wide. The Earth Realm Great Sage froze in midair, his eyes involuntarily revealing deep bewilderment and disbelief. Even with his vast experience, he couldn't react for a moment. Female commander of the Death Sound Pirates also stared blankly, her red lips slightly parted as she muttered to herself in a voice only she could hear under heaven. How could such a thing happen? All the experts who noticed this scene seemed to have large question marks popping up over their heads. The atmosphere descended into an extreme absurdity and eerie silence. After a brief deathly silence, it was the female commander, being the most decisive, who reacted first. A glint flashed in her eyes. In this life-for-death critical moment, she had no time to ponder the reason and decisively launched a thunderous law attack at the still, stunned Earth Realm Great Sage. At the same time, she transmitted her voice sternly to her subordinates behind her, ignore them, quickly withdraw with the realm embryo. The Earth Realm Great Sage was jolted awake by her fierce attack. How could he dare to spare attention for that slippery little fish Fang Chen? He had no choice but to meet the female commander's assault with seething rage, and roared to the native Earth Realm sages behind him, "Pursue. We must seize back the realm embryo." After instructing his subordinates, he hastily cupped his fists toward the otherworldly sages, who had been watching indifferently from the sidelines, promising great rewards. "O Taoists, lend me your strength. If we can reclaim the world core after the deed is done, my Earth Realm will open its gates for 10 days, letting you indulge to your heart's content." At these words, the otherworldly sages who had previously kept aloof suddenly gleamed with keen interest. Their hearts stirred, and in a flash they joined the pursuit. The third fleet of the Dead Sound Pirates now had only 8 sages holding the fort. How could they possibly withstand such a tide of pursuers? Daring not to linger in battle a moment longer, they immediately put full effort into steering their colossal warships and fled in panic toward the depths of the void. Fang Chen watched the chaotic scene before him, a flicker of hesitation crossing his face. The Earth Realm's world core had been stolen, its foundation was lost. Henceforth, it would be powerless to resist the encroachment of the dark tide. Even if they wished to offer their entire realm in submission to a greater world, they would likely be coldly refused, for losing the world core meant losing the very bedrock of their existence. The countless living beings of this world were now doomed to inevitable annihilation. But the entire Earth realm had treated him as a mere ant to be toyed with, plotting against him at every turn. Should he repay their malice with kindness, risking his life to help them reclaim the world core? Thinking this, Fang Chen drew a deep breath and let out a complicated, silent sigh. His gaze drifted toward his next destination, and he thought to himself, I hope you can reclaim the world core with your own strength. As for Wang Chengxi, at his side, what should he do with him? Without much consideration, Fang Chen casually tossed him toward the Earth realm, a meaningful smile playing on his lips. In a clear voice, he said, Brother Wang, this parting may be for years. I wish you good luck, and I hope you enjoy the great gift I've left for you. With those words, his bones crackled and popped as he shed his disguise entirely, reverting to Fang Chen's true appearance. Without hesitation, he activated the void feather mantle, and with a flash, he vanished from the spot, speeding away into the distance. About the time it takes to brew a cup of tea later. In the cold, deathly silent void, a completely naked Payan, Rue slowly regained consciousness. She opened her eyes to a piercing chill, instinctively rubbing her smooth arms. Her eyes, hazy with confusion, surveyed her surroundings as she murmured, Why am I in the void? Wait, those two damned bastards. Memories flooded back like a tide. She jolted upright, her pretty face a mask of incredulous shame and humiliation. Her vaunted, unerring illusion arts had failed to subdue even a greenhorn. And those two, one a better actor than the other, one a better pretender than the other, had joined forces to scheme against her, kicking her about like a ball and toying with her in the palm of their hands. This is utter disgrace. Payan Rue grew angrier the more she thought, rage burning like it would sear through her chest. Just then her hands wrapped around herself for warmth, felt an unusual smoothness. The sensation made her entire body stiffen. Why are my shoulders bare? Her heart sank, she slowly looked down, and her almond-shaped eyes instantly went wide as saucers. Within her vision, she was clad in nothing but a belly band that barely covered her modesty. Her cloud-like hair had come loose, her crowning tresses a tangled mess, and even the rouge and powder she had meticulously applied were scraped clean off her face. Her chest heaved with fury. Her eyes practically spewing fire, she let out a maddened shriek that pierced through the layers of the void. Fang Chen. Wang Chengxiao, you two accursed beasts. Her piercing scream echoed through the deathly, still void, lingering long after. Almost at the same time, the other beast, Wang Chengxiao, also slowly came to from his unconsciousness. It wasn't the pain of falling from the sky that woke him. What roused him was the increasingly loud clamor of discussions all around. He snapped his eyes open to find dozens of heads, large and small, crowded in a circle above him, jeering and pointing. Wang Chengxiao's heart leaped. He flipped over and sat up, bellowing, What are you staring at? Never seen a handsome man before. Among the crowd, a courtesan in floral robes hid her face behind a painted fan and simpered, I've seen plenty of handsome men, but one who sleeps naked in the street is a first. Wang Chengxiao instinctively looked down and felt his vision go dark. He was stark naked, lying flat in the very center of the Earth realm's busiest city. He hurriedly circulated his kai to shield his body, cursing loudly, Fang Chen, you couldn't even leave me a pair of underpants. Are you even human? However, this time he wasn't furious to the extreme, because he had just ruined Fang Chen's reputation, marking a rare win in their recent clashes. From now on, he planned to pull the same trick in other worlds, specifically to make Fang Chen suffer while being unable to do anything about it. Thinking this, Wang Chengxi dusted off his rear and got up, snorting coldly, Fang Chen, enjoy the gift I've left for you. Saying this, he parted the crowd and stared out into the heavens, muttering to himself, judging by the time, that fellow should be arriving soon. I need to go meet him. Before his words had finished, he shot up into the sky. Yet he had barely reached midair when he came face to face with a group of sages, their faces ashen. They were the very same sages who had gone to chase the Third Fleet's warships. How could their speed in the void possibly match the pirates, who came and went as they pleased? Naturally, they returned empty-handed, having achieved nothing. A complete waste of effort. We didn't get a damn thing. The most hateful is that bastard Wang Chengxiao. If not for him, we could have enjoyed ourselves a few more days in the Earth realm. Exactly, thinking of his face as he pointed at our noses and cursed. I'd love to flay him and tear out his tendons. Forget it, who knows where he's fled to now. They were grumbling through gritted teeth when they looked up and suddenly came face with the stark, naked Wang Chengxi, outcharging straight at them. Everyone froze on the spot, eyes wide with disbelief. Wang Chengxiao had delivered himself to their doorstep. After a brief deathly silence, they snapped back to their senses and charged at Wang Chengxi, with murderous intent. You mangy cur, you dare show your face. When you drove away the ancient giants and cut off our source of wealth, weren't you acting awfully bold? Today, your dog life ends. Wang Chengxi blinked. When had he ever driven away ancient giants? Driving away ancient giants wasn't that something only Fang Chen's true steel could do. Wait. The moment he recalled that Fang Chen had disguised himself as him, he sucked in a sharp breath. That scoundrel, Fang Chen, had gone and offended the powerhouses of several surrounding worlds, all in his damned name. And he had done it using the name of Wang Chengxiao. Wang Chengxi. I was so furious, he nearly exploded on the spot. He roared at the heavens, Fang Chen, you son of a bitch. I'll give you a tooth for a tooth, an eye for an eye. Within the void, Fang Chen executed several consecutive teleports, speeding further and further away. Just as the light of the Earth realm was about to vanish from sight, a surge of ripples burst forth from the depths of the void. As if some colossal entity was pushing through the void, bearing down with tremendous force, Fang Chen's expression turned grave. He said, in a low voice, "Who is it this time?"